Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine Monday night, Monday evening, your time, Monday night, my time, by you guys. You guys are going to be guiding the show for the most part. I have not added the the right background to this, so I will be doing that while I kind of meander through this intro. But yeah, you guys are going to be joining here. You guys are going to be guiding the show after I get through a couple of topics or a topic at the top of the show. A quick reminder, please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcasts if you're listening in the morning. And then if you guys are watching live right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and then hit that share button. Share the show wherever it is that you feel like sharing it. Randomly drop it to like your parents, even if they aren't Lakers fans. Just see what happens. No, actually, maybe don't do that, because then they might be like, wait, why are you sharing this with me? I don't know who this person is. I might not even like the Lakers. No. All right. On second thought, share it with people who you think might be Lakers fans, because maybe then you can welcome into this community. All right. So, like I said before, I remembered to change the background on the show. We're going to be talking about the Lakers injury situations. The Lakers play the New Orleans Pelicans tomorrow night, or tonight by the time you guys are listening to this in its podcast form. We did get an injury report from the Lakers. These are longer than they were about a week or so ago, but we continue forward. So I will go ahead and start the show by talking about some of these injuries, offer up if I have any additional information on top of what is already out there, and let's go ahead and get started. Oh, wrong button. This button. Here we go. All right. So first and foremost, the Lakers played the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Pelicans are very much tanking. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this in here for those of you who are interested and watching live. But the Lakers injury list is, a little more extensive than we would maybe hope for it to be. But at the end of the day, though, it's a lot of questionables and possibles and probables, and only a couple guys who are just flat out. Here's what we're looking at for tomorrow. LeBron James is probable, as he continues to manage that left foot injury that he's been dealing with basically all year. Luka has a right knee contusion, and he is considered questionable, as is Austin Reaves with that right calf strain. I think right calf strain is a little strong on the verbiage. I don't believe it's a full-on calf strain. I think it's right calf soreness, but regardless. And then you have Jordan Goodwin, who does have officially a right ankle sprain. JJ Redick said it was a grade 1 sprain. I believe those usually take a week or so, maybe a couple weeks for players to come back from that. And then Rui Hachimura dealing with left patellar tendinopathy. His left knee is sore. And then Maxi Kleba, who is still recovering from that right foot surgery. Those three guys are just flat out for this game. It's going to be interesting to see how the Lakers handle this. I would have thought going into yesterday's game against the Clippers that the Lakers would have folded up shop and just not worried about that game. They already got the one game against the Clippers. Maybe they just kind of play for the split there. But no, instead the Lakers played that one out and went out and won the game. And it does appear like LeBron James is going to be good to go tomorrow. And so what I was told going into Sunday's game with Austin, that he was going to try to like wake up and get a little bit of a workout in, and then see how his knee feels. Maybe get to warm ups there, see how that calf feels. Sorry, and see how, maybe try to give it a go. But it was pretty unlikely that he was going to play in that one. Then obviously he didn't. I think it was very precautionary that the Lakers held him out. It was, hell, I was told it was even precautionary for him to get an MRI in the first place, and kind of joke with some of the people I was talking about that I could just see Austin being like, I'm fine. I don't know why we're running this MRI. I will be fine. And then lo and behold, the MRI came back clean. And now it's just a matter of getting him to as close to 100% as a player can be at this stage of an NBA season. And then whenever he is ready, like JJ Redick said the other night, he will be able to play. The fact that he went from doubtful on Sunday to questionable now, I think is noteworthy. Does that mean he is definitely playing tomorrow night? Probably not. I don't know if I would go that far, but I would say it's probably a little bit better chance than like a coin flip that we see Austin in this game. And then if we don't see him in this game against the Pelicans Tuesday night, I do think there's a good chance we see him Thursday night in that game there. I believe the Lakers play the Knicks in that one, and he'll be available, I believe, for that one. And then the Lakers play the Celtics on Saturday, and I would definitely imagine that they will want all hands on deck for that game. Rui Hachimura, had that non-contact knee tweak. Now they don't, to the best of my understanding, I don't believe they even ran an MRI on Rui. So it's just a matter of soreness and getting some of that soreness to go away and handle that. And remember, he also tweaked his back in the game or so before that, and just remember walked right back to the locker room after he kind of tweaked his back. So he's, again, this is the point in the season where players start really kind of, tweaking this and that and the other. And it's just a matter of getting everybody healthy to the finish line, while also hopefully sprinting through that finish line and getting the Lakers the best seed that they can. And so with Rui, I think this is a little bit beyond precautionary with Rui. I do believe he actually tweaked that knee. And I would imagine we're probably at least a week or so away from a more clear update on that situation with Rui. And then with Luka, he said after the game that he banged knees with somebody, and he is dealing with that knee contusion. Now, Lakers fans hate to see that word contusion. That is one of the scariest words in the Lakers vocabulary. But he didn't sound too upset, too worried about it. The fact that he is questionable and not doubtful, let alone out, is, I believe, a positive sign. I also believe that he wants to play as many games as he possibly can because he needs to get his conditioning up. And again, I would say he is around that same area that Austin finds himself, where it's probably slightly better than a coin flip that both of those guys play, or that either of those guys play. And we'll see what the Lakers actually look like. But it's pretty insane that the 40-year-old has the cleanest bill of health of anybody on the Lakers, it seems like. But it does appear that we'll see with Austin, we'll see with Luka. Rui is going to be out. Jordan is going to be out. But it's good to see that Vando is completely off of these lists now pretty consistently. Trying to think, Jackson Hayes had that hip thing. That is completely behind him. He isn't on these injury reports going into these games. Trying to think of anybody else. I think that's about it in terms of guys who we would maybe be a little worried about. And we'll see who is ready to do what in tomorrow night's game. All right, let's go ahead and dive into your questions. So what I'm gonna do, the way that I'm gonna handle this is yeah, Bashir, like contusions. Nobody likes it that word contusion, even though it just means bruise, sometimes bone bruise, whatever. Um, but no Lakers fans like seeing that word. But yeah, I asked for questions on Twitter, and what I'm gonna do is prioritize the questions that I got from there that have proof of being subscribed to the show. Starting with, let's see, yeah, Tam the pessimist writes, "Do you think JJ will be keeping the LeBron Luka two-man sets up his sleeve until the playoffs start?" We've seen fun outlets, but in the half court, it has been majorly been taking turns between the two or three. If you include Austin, the D is great, and our O is nowhere near our ceiling. So I put in the comments the piece that I wrote today for clutch points. Here is what somebody said to me about the Lakers offense and the way that they're kind of running it right now. Um, had some really fun quotes throughout this piece, but I thought um, what a former coach told me about trying to defend the Lakers is a fun one. So here's the quote. Quote, "It's a math problem," a former coach said. "Almost no one has the personnel to match up with Braun, Luka, and Reaves all at the same time. Then when Rui and Dorian Finney-Smith or Jackson Hayes are out there, you have to account for them too. You have to blitz Luka or LeBron, but then the other guy gets to play 4-on-3. If you switch, they'll hunt the matchup test you least want to see. If you shut off one side of the court, they can skip over the top and attack you on the weak side. The defense basically has to hope they miss, and that's right now while they figure out how to play together. Once they start clicking, I have no idea how teams are going to defend. What teams are going to do defensively down the stretch of the games after 45 minutes of guarding Luka and LeBron." End quote. So, on one hand, I also would like to see a little bit more pick and roll or dribble handoff or really anything involving both of those guys on the same side of the court and seeing what that looks like. And then, being able to skip the ball over the top to Austin on the weak side. Um, but it's like it's a couple of things. One, the Lakers are winning. And if you can kind of keep that information off of film as long as you possibly can while continuing to win, I understand the value in doing that. Although I do think eventually they're going to want to get some reps in live games to see what that actually looks like. Um, and then the other thing too is like that coach says, as their plays are kind of currently designed right now, where you have one player on the strong side and then one guy on the weak side, and their ability to just flip the ball across the court as quickly as they can, given how hard they can throw those passes and how tall they both are, and how easily they can throw it over the top. I actually think it's a decent setup there too. The biggest thing is, and I talk about this a lot, basically wanting to be able to throw to throw as many pitches or to land as many punches and different kinds of punches. And with LeBron and Luka, I understand and I do want to see more two-man game between the two of them. I do think there's a bit of a concern. Somebody else asked about personnel. Maybe I'll try to find that really quick. Um, all right, so it's not in here, but somebody asked me basically about like oh no, it was in the Discord. Here it is. So ZTR01215 asked, "Hey Anthony, do you think we'll see Luka LeBron pick and roll with LeBron as a screener so he can hit shooters and cutters in the short roll, or do you envision it being an easy switch since Luka and LeBron get guarded by similar archetype players?" I think that last part is an important one, right? So like, let's say the Lakers are playing the Boston Celtics, you wouldn't want to run um pick and roll with Luka and LeBron, while one guy is guarded by Jason Tatum and the other guy is guarded by Jaylen Brown. You probably wouldn't want to run pick and roll. I'm trying to think of other teams at the top of the standings who are, that also present that similar issue. I think that's maybe like the Cavs, where in certain situations, maybe you have like DeAndre Hunter and Okoro guarding LeBron and Luka. And if that's the case, then like you wouldn't want to run a pick and roll there because they'll just switch and you've wasted all of that time running that pick and roll. So against those teams, and then like what makes both of those teams kind of complicated is that not only do they have the wings that you can run pick and roll with there and just be able to switch it, but you also have like Kristaps Porzingis waiting for you with the rim. He's a really good rim protector. And then on Cleveland, you have Evan Mobley and the other center who I always forget his name. But like both of those guys, like, once, even if the Lakers are able to run that pick and roll with Luka and LeBron or get LeBron in the short roll, what makes it tricky trying to score on those two teams is what's waiting for you after you get past that initial line of defense at the pick and roll, at the level of the pick and roll. You now have incredible rim protection also waiting for you. And that's what makes those teams really good, right? So we'll talk a little bit in a bit about like the ideal way to guard the Lakers. But for right now, like, when you're playing, if the Lakers were to play those two teams, it probably makes more sense to keep LeBron and Luka separate on the court, force those teams to overload to guard Luka or LeBron on the strong side, and then whip the pass as quickly as you possibly can over to the weak side and let whoever didn't start with the basketball attack a rotating defense as they get back and try to contest that skip pass on the weak side. But yeah, it's all, the biggest thing is, and Jared Allen, thank you, Ray. The big thing is, and I think the crux of this question and the crux of this conversation is that between Luka and LeBron, eventually they're going to be able to run pick and roll together. Eventually they'll be able to run it so well that it's devastating no matter who is guarding it. The biggest thing is like just being able to with those two guys, like the way that they are going to be most dangerous is by being able to do a little bit of everything. You want them to be able to run that pick and roll. You want them to be able to run the occasional horns set if both those guys are in and you have Austin at the top of the horn set. You want those guys to be able to run dribble handoff with each other or run offense completely separately to where those guys can pierce the defense on their own or put the defense in an impossible spot and then skip the pass and put the defense in an even worse predicament. All of that is basically where the Lakers eventually want to get their offense. And they have basically, 23 games to be able to iron out all of those wrinkles by the time you get to the playoffs. All right. The next question here comes from, Kyle Shu, I'm guessing. How likely is it for Goodwin and Jemison to be converted to the final roster before the playoffs? So the last I asked about this, initially I thought if the Lakers waited right up until the very end of the season or the very end of those guys' two-way contract eligibility, that maybe you wait long enough so that their contracts are so prorated that you could fit both of them under the second apron. What I was told initially is that because of like the minimum that a player has to be paid, even if it's the prorated amount, that the Lakers technically can't do that. Now, I did see Eric Pincus, who knows way more about this than I do. I did see somewhere or someone said that Eric said that they might be able to wait long enough to get those guys under the second apron. And if that's the case, I'm going to roll with what Eric is saying there. I'll try to nail that down and answer that more definitively tomorrow. But essentially it seems like I feel like they're gonna have to wait and make a choice on those two guys. I would probably choose Goodwin over Jemison. If you have to choose one over the other. And I know like this is an opportunity where like we could, if you want to, dunk on the front office for moving so quickly on Len when Jemison appears to be a better option anyway. I'm not going to take that opportunity personally because it's kind of difficult to just go into the postseason with only Jackson Hayes as NBA caliber bigs and NBA contract bigs. And now, maybe Maxey gets healthy. I saw Jovan said that there's a little bit of optimism there that Kleba might be able to get healthy before the playoffs roll around. Fingers crossed. That'd be great. But if that's in the cards, then it's definitely more worthwhile to keep Goodwin. I just know that like the Lakers are just absolutely floored with what Goodwin has been able to do on a two-way deal, and absolutely floored that they were able to get Goodwin on a two-way deal. They have loved every second of him on a basketball court so far for them this year. And I would be pretty surprised if Goodwin isn't on the playoff roster going into the season. And then even beyond that, maybe signing him to a deal for the rest of this year, and then maybe sweetening the pot with like a non-guaranteed option for next year as well, depending on how the playoffs go and all of that, like giving themselves that option for him and giving him that option or giving him that little extra kind of carrot out there to continue playing the way that he is so far. But um, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 85% sure that they have to choose between Jemison and Goodwin. And then I'm like 95% sure if they do have to do that, that they would choose Goodwin. All right, next question here comes from Green Machine 99. What do you think of Nickeil Alexander-Walker or Quentin Grimes as MLE signings next year? And then Claxton being trading for Claxton by using Kleba, Gabe, Dalton, and picks as the offseason moves. Also, thoughts on how many years Braun will play. Oh man, that is all right. So I love the idea of a Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I was watching the game against the Clippers last night. Now, Chris Dunn got a little out of control on offense, and I didn't love the fact that the Lakers were just like he would be open, and then the Lakers would guard him like this, basically, where it was just like, yeah, go ahead, whatever you're gonna do. Yeah, we're just go for it. No. What? Go shoot it. Go for it. I'm just making getting ready. That was crazy. The fact that the Lakers were that disrespectful to Chris Dunn. And now that said, Chris Dunn is, I think, like a top 5 defensive guard in the NBA, and maybe it's worth it to bring in somebody like that. Alexander Walker is also incredible defensively. He would bring some of the athleticism that I think the Lakers would kind of miss. And then if you sign Alexander Walker and then you trade Gabe in that package alongside Kleba and Dalton and the picks for Claxton, that makes up for trading Gabe in the first place as well. So I like the entire makeup of that offseason. That's a lot of boxes checked. And man, if the Lakers were able to do all of that going into next year, they would be, I think, among like given how public they are, they would probably enter next year favorites to win the betting favorites to win the championships. And then the second part of that question, thoughts on how many years Bron will play. So if you would have asked me before this season how many years LeBron James is going to play after this one, I would have said one. Like he would play this year, and then you would do the documentary / farewell tour next year. But given the way that he's defending right now, and given the additional pep in his step that we have seen now that Luka is there, like I think he really sees an opportunity if he keeps his body right and if his body holds up. I think he probably sees an opportunity to tie Michael with 6 championships. And like, if that's the case, I could see him playing this year, next year, and maybe an additional 2 years beyond that. It sounds insane given how old he is, but also it's insane the fact that LeBron right now, like there was that incredible graphic that went around where he currently is averaging basically the same stat line as he averaged when he won MVP in when he played for Miami. Like this dude, I have no idea how we're supposed to analyze or talk about like how this guy is aging, and at the end of the day, if he sees an opportunity, depending on how close they get to a championship this year, and then depending on what kind of roster they're able to bring to the table next year and how close they get to a championship next year, if they don't win one, like if they win a championship next year, maybe he just rides off into the sunset having accomplished that and he's cool with 5. But if they win a championship next year and Luka basically enters his prime and LeBron is still playing at a high level, Austin basically also enters his prime as well. And the Lakers, like that core that, again, we're talking hypothetically, maybe wins a championship next year. Like if he sees an opportunity to tie Michael and basically like grab hold of the GOAT debate, let alone like 7 championships is bleeping insane. The Lakers somehow winning 3 rings in the next like 4 to 5 years. That sounds kind of crazy. But yeah, like I think like I think he might play as many as like 3 years from here on out. Like, this season, next season, and then maybe a couple years beyond that. Remember, Bryce might be entering the NBA by that time too. Maybe Bronny will be good enough to play like regular minutes, maybe not rotation minutes, but a little bit more frequently than he plays currently. Yeah, like I don't know, man. I know that I don't know is probably the worst answer in sports content, but I think it's now less likely than it's ever been that next year is LeBron's final year. How about that? All right, let's go ahead and dive on in to the super comments here. We do have one super comment, which means amen. All right, Jazz Singh writes, what's your ideal playoff bracket and worst matchups? So ideally, you have OKC, like keeping it realistic, right? Ideally, maybe OKC goes on like a 15-game losing streak and the Lakers slide up into the 1 spot. I don't see that happening. So ideally, OKC sits up at the top of the bracket, and then the Lakers finish second. and then like Golden State gets out of the play-in, territory, and the Clippers dip into play-in territory, and ideally they lose. Now I don't like talking about it like this, but Kyrie Irving did appear to pretty seriously injure his knee tonight. And it just seems like it's the year from hell for Dallas. But yeah, like if the Lakers could basically, get that 2 seed and find a way to only have to play like the Kings or something like that in the 2 seed, if they or like the Wolves. Um and then after that, your second round opponent is the Grizzlies, I think, is the team I would prefer to play. So if the Grizzlies somehow finish third, and then you have the Nuggets finishing fourth. And by the way, if the Nuggets finish fourth and their first round opponent is the Houston Rockets, that's enough athleticism to really give them problems. I think they wind up winning it, but that series I could definitely see going like 6 or 7 games. And then you go from that to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and if the Thunder were to knock off the Nuggets and the Lakers were to take care of business against the Grizzlies, and then you have Lakers Thunder in the conference finals, that I think is about as well as the bracket could possibly play out for me. And then maybe you get super duper lucky and it's like Orlando waiting for you in the championship. It does feel like weirdly the Lakers play the Celtics on Saturday, and it does really feel like the league is kind of guiding us towards Lakers Celtics in the finals, and the Lakers maybe tying it up to where both teams sit at 18 championships this year. That would be fun. That would be really, really fun. And then you have like the Luka era going up against the 2J's era in Boston, and you see which team is able to maximize those eras and come out of those players' careers with the most championships. That would be really fun. I think that's kind of how I would prefer to see all of this play out. All right, let's go ahead and go through some of the I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top here. Let's see. Hey, Anthony, love the show. This is from Jazz saying, love the show. Do you think the Lakers give LeBron a no trade clause this offseason? Just asking because of how they've shifted their focus kind of and may want to move him to get a number 2. I don't think I think really after how things have gone for the Phoenix Suns, unless it's an automatic no trade clause, I think teams are going to fight scratch and claw to avoid giving anybody no trade clauses. I don't even think the Lakers really have to though, because like LeBron loves it in LA. The fact that there was never even a peep really after they traded Anthony Davis, that like maybe LeBron was sick with of the situation and felt clutch losing its grip. Like there was a ton of speculation around the league, but like he basically put that to bed extremely quickly and came back super focused and super committed to the Lakers after all of that. And then again, like you look at the way that he is playing right now, where it's like, all right, Luka, you got the offense. I'm going to handle a lot of the defense. And he's playing defense at a level that we haven't seen basically in the last like couple of years, it feels like. So outside of the playoffs or outside of the midseason tournament too. But I don't think the Lakers really have to give him a no trade clause, and therefore I don't think they will. Jazz also asks, has Hayes played himself out of a minimum and into a longer contract, like 2 years, $5 million? Well, yes and no, to quote the philosopher Darius Soriano. On one hand, the way that he's playing right now is legitimately really, really good. Like, go and look at those clips. Sorry, I have a eyelash in my eye, but go look at those clips of Hayes defending at the level or switching or dropping. And he was fantastic defensively last night, and continues to get better there. So he deserves credit in his own right for the way that he's playing. But then on top of that, or not necessarily on top of that, like with all of that being said, you know, a lot of, if not all of the way that Jackson is playing, especially offensively, has everything to do with the fact that he is being absolutely spoon-fed by LeBron, by Luka, by Austin. So, and even while that is going on, he's kind of struggling to get to double digits. So I do think he's probably played well enough to get a 2-year deal. Maybe $5 million is around there. I actually think his veteran minimum is probably like 2 years at like 2.75 a piece. So it's like 5 and change. Um, and I do think that the Lakers would like to maybe keep him given the way that he has played. But yeah, like for all of the steps forward here that we have seen from Jackson, a lot of this is owed directly to the fact that he is playing with two of the greatest pick and roll creators ever to play, and still is kind of struggling to put together like an overwhelming offensive game. So I think the Lakers eventually would like to employ a big who is a little bit better in the short roll in terms of like knowing which pass to make, has better touch if they aren't dunking than Jackson, maybe a little bigger than Jackson. I know they liked Duran out of Detroit. I also don't necessarily see Detroit trading him given the season that they're having. So maybe the Lakers look to draft somebody, draft a center there who is cost controlled moving forward and all of that good stuff. But yeah, I definitely think he's played well enough to stick around. I don't think he's played so well that the Lakers are like, we're good here, right? We don't need another center. I don't think they're there either. Let's keep on going here. I'm basically what I'm doing is scrolling all the way up. Dodger Blue asks, is Nick Claxton realistic this summer? So essentially, the choice that the Lakers made at the deadline was we are not interested in moving any of our core for a center. And at that time, they didn't consider Dalton Connect part of like the core rotation of players, right? 8-man rotation. He was outside of that. And I think they'll probably maintain that stance to a certain extent. And I think Kleba, now the fact that like they will be able to attach contracts to Kleba's expiring to be able to bring in talent opens up their options quite a bit. And I think that's basically how they're going to try to go about this. And unfortunately, Claxton makes just enough to where like they need to include Gabe. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but the Lakers do love Gabe quite a bit. And I think Claxton is just too expensive for what the Lakers are looking to do in terms of the trade. So, like, he's an option. I don't know if I'd go so far as to consider him. Whew, he's like right on the border of realistic. So, like, he's realistic in the sense that the Lakers have enough to get him from Brooklyn. The question is whether the Lakers are willing to pay up everything that they would have to get him from Brooklyn. Do, 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 do. Let's keep on going here. Keep on going. Keep on going. Oh, yeah. Real Overlord. Good example there with OG and McCall. Yeah, those guys, I don't think you have to worry about the Knicks in the playoffs. Like, I don't think the Lakers are gonna see them in the finals. They feel a little fraudy to me offensively. Um, but like, because they're so reliant upon Jalen Brunson, and he's so small, and he relies on free throws to the extent that he does. I don't know. Now, you do still have McCall, who's a really good creator. You do still have Josh Hart, who plays really well, basically all over the court. And Cat is a wild card, right? If he has a game against the right team at the wrong time for that team that they're playing against, maybe that flips a series. So maybe the Lakers see the Knicks in the finals, but I would put them as like a distant third, maybe even fourth behind uh Cleveland, Boston, Milwaukee, and then I would put the Knicks right there. You could flip-flop Milwaukee and the Knicks if you'd like. Let's see. Where are we at? Where are we at? Hide current question. And then let's see. Why wouldn't teams just use the MLE on their own players? Yeah, I T Dot asked that. Why wouldn't their own teams just use the MLE on their own players? LOL, Lakers not getting Grimes and Nikhil Alexander Walker. Look, the Wolves are looking to shed salary, and now it's likely that they just let Julius Randle expire. Um, but like that would be a brutal look, trading somebody as important to the organization as Cat was, and then immediately letting the guy walk that you traded him for. Now, like, I maybe in that case you keep Dante DiVincenzo a little bit longer and you get something out of the trade, but trading Cat and basically getting nothing would be a brutal look for them. Now, they are going to have different ownership in place, and to a certain extent, those guys can walk in and be like, sorry, we didn't make that call, and we don't think it's very wise to keep Julius Randle beyond the season. But still, that, like, just in terms of public perception, that's a brutal look. And if they do decide to keep Julius Randle, then keeping him and Nikhil Alexander Walker, it gets really expensive, and teams are really going to be pinching pennies from here on out. But I would be like, to actually answer the question, I would also be pretty surprised if Nikhil Alexander Walker were available, especially on the mid level exception. He's really bleeping good. All right. I think, let's see, 43 minutes. I got time for a couple more. Oh, we have a starred comment. So Jazz saying, what if they do like Maxi, the mid-level, which is tradable now in the CBA, and Dalton is matching salary for Claxton? I feel like he fits the defense most. Yeah, like everything that Hayes is doing right now for you, think of that, but like 150% better with what Claxton brings. I really like Claxton's game. Um, like the Nets basically haven't been able to tank in part because of Claxton. Now, Day'Ron Sharpe played his ass off the other night too. He's a restricted free agent, unfortunately, so that probably takes him off of the board for the Lakers. But if for whatever dumb reason Brooklyn renounces his rights, I think the Lakers should swoop in pretty quickly on Day'Ron, just as like another option. Like what we've seen from Jemison, Day'Ron does a lot of that stuff, and then also can step out and shoot. That sounds nice. Uh, so as like an option, as like a backup, right? I would love to see Day'Ron Sharpe in a Lakers uniform. I thought that the Lakers should have pursued him back when they when they pursued Dorian Finney-Smith. Now at the time, from what I've kind of been told, this was before conversations started with Luka, and the Lakers had just traded D'Angelo Russell, and Rob Pelinka thought that the Lakers needed another ball handler on the roster now that they traded D'Lo, so they chose to pursue Shake instead of Day'Ron. But with hindsight now being 2020, imagine how much better the Lakers would be if it was Day'Ron on the roster and not Shake. That would be Day'Ron's really bleeping good, man. Like he feels like that kind of player that some good team is going to wind up with, and he's going to play really well, and everybody's going to be like, "What the how did they just get Day'Ron Sharpe? Like, why did we just let Team X just get Day'Ron Sharpe?" That like he's kind of flown under the radar, but he's had some really impressive games so far this season. And I would love for the Lakers to be able to swoop in and try to get him this summer. Jonesy writes, what do you think of our chances of winning the championship this year? So right now, I think I saw their odds right now at like plus 1,500 at most books. I would like if I was betting on it. I think I said this in yesterday's show. If I was betting on the Lakers to win a championship, I would prefer to be able to bet at like plus 2,000 on them. But look, like I think they are in that top tier of teams between Boston, Cleveland, and OKC. I think the Lakers are right there with any of those teams. And there isn't a team in the NBA that going into a series, I'm looking at them, even the Nuggets. There isn't a team in the NBA, so long as Luka, LeBron, and Reaves are healthy, and enough of the Lakers rotation is relatively healthy. Let alone if everybody is healthy. There isn't a team in the NBA that I'm like, yeah, the Lakers don't have a chance against those guys. Not one. OKC, Denver, Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, New York, Memphis, Houston, and so on and so forth. Like, I would take the Lakers. Maybe there are series where I would consider the Lakers underdogs, right? I think the Lakers would be betting underdogs against OKC. They would be underdogs against Denver. They would be underdogs against Cleveland and Boston, but they wouldn't be overwhelming underdogs. And I like if they beat any of those teams, let alone a couple of those teams in those series, it wouldn't exactly shock me. It would really surprise me if the Lakers win a championship this year, but it's always surprising when your team wins a championship. The Dodgers have a super team going into the season. It would be a surprise to me if they won the World Series this year. It's just that's how sports are. That's how the playoffs are. That's why we love the playoffs. Yeah, I think the Lakers, I think they have a real shot. Like I think they have coming into the year, I think the way that I said this previously is that like going into the year, the Lakers like technically could have won a championship, but they needed like a 100th percentile season to be able to win it. Now with Luka, with LeBron, with Austin, with this offense, let alone if they keep defending this way, if the Lakers like if those things go right, like the Lakers could win a championship with like a 85th percentile season. And that's that's real margin for error. And the fact that I think the Lakers have a little bit of margin for error to win a championship this season, that's bleeping insane. Like that's absolutely insane. And by the way, that's why so many people around the league are so pissed at the fact that the Lakers were able to get Luka and improve their chances of winning a championship this year, let alone because it didn't cost every single thing that wasn't tied down or nailed down, like bolted down. Like the Lakers have enough assets to improve their roster and go into next season as like a potential favorite to win the championship. That's bananas. It's incredible. Haley Ford writes, get Claxton and Josh Green in the offseason and you're ready to roll. Yeah, I like Claxton. I think Robert Williams, like the fact that the Lakers were willing to, now eventually they decided against bringing in Mark Williams, but the fact that they were willing to entertain bringing Mark Williams in, if you can basically trade Kleba and a minimum or something like that, or Kleba and Connect and like some second round compensation for Robert Williams in the offseason, I think that is a path that the Lakers could go down. Robert Williams, like, again, a lot of the stuff that Jackson is doing this year, think of that. Now, the concern there with Robert Williams is his ability to stay on the floor. But if he's able to stay relatively healthy and be just like a supercharged Jackson Hayes next season, that's a pretty sick lineup that the Lakers could potentially roll out there. One concern with like beyond the season is maybe a little slippage from Dorian Finney-Smith. And I think the Lakers, like, I like the Josh Green addition here that Haley brings in to the fold here, as just kind of like insurance, just in case we see a little slippage there from Dorian. He's been so great this year. I love watching Dorian play. He's one of those guys that, like, all right, you watch the game however you're going to watch it in the first place. But then after the fact, go back and watch his minutes specifically and just watch him and just marvel at the number of good winning basketball plays that guy makes. Gosh, like what a refreshing like addition to this team he was. All right. Let's see. Yeah, like 2 years, 10 mil seems a little high, Philip, but I could see some team being dumb enough to give him that. I don't think the Lakers would, but you know, who knows? Money is tough to come by for free agents in this new CBA, and we'll see. That's interesting. I'll end on this one. Somebody asks, nobody wants KD. He's too old. And then somebody else earlier in the comments while I was scrolling through said, stay away from KD. Somebody said, I answered Twitter questions earlier, not a Kendall Marshall fan. Yeah, the KD thing is funny. Raj and I were talking. I'll let him make the case. I won't speak for him because I think he would catch some heat for it. It's a crazy take. Or it's a take that sounds crazy. I don't love that Kevin Durant has been a part of 2 straight extremely disappointing super teams. One with Brooklyn and then now in Phoenix. Like, at some point, we got to hold this guy accountable for something. I thought he got off light for going to Golden State, and there was like too much backlash. There, you know, there was too much backlash to anybody who pointed out how lame it was that he went from OKC to the Warriors. I thought that was really lame of him to do, to go to the team that just beat you in the playoffs. And I thought really kind of signaled a potential deficiency when it comes to competitiveness there. And then he goes from that, like he's miserable there. And then he goes to Brooklyn, teams up with Kyrie, teams up with James Harden, fires Kenny Atkinson, who turns around and is like going to be the coach of the year this year for what he's done in Cleveland. They bring in Steve Nash. That's a disaster. And then he asks for a trade out of there, goes to Phoenix, and they have never been as good as they should have been while he's been there. And yeah, you can like point to Bradley Beal as the guy who like sinks their entire, you know, cap structure. Okay, That's fine. But Kevin Durant used to be the guy who like just came with such a high floor that it didn't matter what was going on. He at least would get you into the play-in. They're not a play-in team right now. They're like 3 games out of the play-in. So it's like you're playing. Yes, Victor Ray, was Phoenix a super team? Absolutely. It's Devin Booker, it's Kevin Durant, it's Bradley Beal, at least initially when he showed up there. Like, KD has to wear some of this. I think he's a really interesting guy. I think he's a good dude to the best of my understanding, but I do think he lacks in some leadership qualities. And the fact that like Brooklyn happened and then his departure from Golden State was kind of ugly. And now Phoenix is happening all over again. Like I'm good. I don't really want KD around this. Now, look, if KD shows up and he's like a hyper 3-and-D wing, okay, like that's kind of difficult to mess up, I guess. But I don't know, man. I'd rather just let him go to like Houston or Memphis. He doesn't even want to go to Memphis. Like, let him go to Miami. I think KD is destined to go to Miami and fight with Pat Riley till the end of his career. All right. That I believe is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. I am going to narrate the article that I wrote for Clutch Points on today's lowdown. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that. The Lakers are in action tomorrow night against the New Orleans Pelicans. So after that game, Raj and I will be here to recap that game. It'll be late, so I'll be good and delirious, and we'll get you through that conversation. And then as of right now, I might be jinxing it, but screw it. Jovan is going to pop on to the show for Wednesday's episode. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss any of that good stuff. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I'll talk to you tomorrow or in an hour or so. Who knows?
Bye, everyone.